Welcome inside another edition of 101 Sports, where today we'll be talking about March Madness,
the NFL,
and MLB spring training.
And it all starts
right now. Welcome back inside another edition of 101 Sports. Let's get things started off with the quick hitters. And you might be wondering why we are in darkness, and that is going to be honoring Cole Noble's favorite quarterback, the Aaron Rodgers. His darkness retreat is over. He has come out, and he has seen New York Jet green.
Of all the things to see when you come out of such a great event like a darkness retreat.
An abyss.
You know, it's inspired me to take this darkness retreat with the rest of our 101 Sports crew. It's really made us think about what we want to talk about, and right now that's Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, yeah.
This can't go well for either team, right? Like, that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I understand.
The last time the Jets signed or traded for a Green Bay quarterback, it worked out spectacularly, right?
For the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if Minnesota's looking for Kirk Cousins' replacement, I think
I mean, he's going to be, in New York anytime. Like you said, it's the Yogi Berra quote. It's deja vu all over again.
History repeats. And the thing is the Jets are moving all these pieces, right? They're trying to set up this amazing trade package. Not only that, they gave Allen Lazard a big contract.
Oh, yeah.
4 years, $44 million.
And didn't Aaron Rodgers complain about how he had no weapons, but he's bringing some weapons from the team that had no weapons?
Either he really likes Allen Lazard for his personality.
I mean, he must be a great locker room
Lazard
guy.
must know something that we don't. But just for the Jets, I can't see this going well. I'm not sure what type of package Green Bay will get in return. Is Jordan Love fully ready to take on? We'll see if that pick turns out.
Who knows?
Kuntz, we'll see if he can he can finally put pieces around a quarterback and get past the NFC Championship and not get run on for 300 yards.
So you're telling me that I might see the same thing over and over again,
Yeah.
the Packers falling short in the playoffs, and the New York Jets being miserable.
Yeah, insanity.
So why make the trade at all then if nothing's going to change?
Because the NFL likes money, and that's why
Yeah.
they're extending
Roger Goodell.
Did you like that segue?
I did like that
Very nice.
segue.
But really, Roger Goodell is getting this extension because he makes the league a lot of money. A lot of money. He made the new deal with Amazon Prime, a lot more TV deals. The thing is his legacy is also about player health, those issues, equity, minority hirings, just not the best, but he makes them a lot of money, which is why
The owners are not complaining,
Which
okay?
the NFL owners are the ones making this decision.
Exactly.
And they're the ones profiting off of him. So I think they're okay with extending him a couple more years.
I mean, hey, if I'm Roger Goodell, I am happy with this, okay? I am happy that I can, get my $20 million a year, and if all I have to do in the public eye is get booed on national television at every NFL draft, I'm taking that hand over fist, okay? I'll take my millions of dollars and be the face of a league. But, okay, like you said, Roger Goodell potentially getting that extension makes the league an enormous amount of money. Did that Amazon deal. He's got the new deal for what is it again? It's not the new Sunday ticket package. The new Sunday ticket package. They got a new deal there. And, I mean, it's just a great time to be an NFL owner.
It really
I think we
is.
should invest in a team together.
We might. I mean, they're going.
Let's buy the Steelers.
They're going for about $4.5 billion nowadays, but
I don't have that kind of cash, do you?
I don't either. We'll start a GoFundMe.
And also, speaking of cash, the NIL deal. University of Miami and the Cavender Twins, the first NIL infraction after 2 years of NIL.
And when you introduce something like NIL, which I think is great for college athletes, the fact that they can get paid without any real repercussions, now we're starting to see, after a couple years of sort of waiting it out, seeing what could happen, we're seeing our first infraction, and it comes with one of the two highest paid NIL athletes in the world of college.
I mean, and Katie Meyer, the head coach for Miami, already served her suspension at the beginning of the year. She set up a dinner between her and Canes donor John Ruiz. But I think it's that gray area in NIL that I'm not a personal fan of, and it's in recruiting. We saw it with with the quarterback commit who had committed to Florida. He was promised $15 million in NIL money, and they couldn't come to the table with it. They said, oh, we can't get it. He's like, oh, I already signed my letter of intent. I'm going to get out of that. And so if you're using it to recruit players, I can see it maybe being retention. But again, if a coach is sending you to a booster, I mean, it's just
And
messy.
It's not even the Twins that are the ones being punished. It's actually the University
It
of
is.
Miami that has to do the year of probation. They get reduced visits. They have to wait 3 weeks before they can even get into the transfer portal. So it doesn't just hurt them now. It hurts them down the line. So it's really going to be interesting to see where this takes, because we'll see what the pushback is. We'll see how it works. But this is the first and probably what will be a long line as the NCAA tries to figure out what even is NIL and how to regulate that.
But even looking at Miami, they're in the Sweet 16 for men's basketball, and the Cavinder Twins just pulled off the upset of the number 2 overall seed, the Indiana Hoosiers, in Bloomington. So they're in the Sweet 16 too. So I mean, you can't fault them for winning. So, but I mean, Miami's a desirable place. Anyone doesn't want to go there anyway.
Oh, yeah, no, ugly campus.
Oh, it's
no,
not a bad city. Not a bad city either. I wouldn't know. But okay, World Baseball Classic quickly. One of the great tournaments that we've ever seen. Japan beats the USA in the final 3-2. You get that final showdown, like the you get Ohtani and Trout, one at bat to decide the whole thing. Ohtani comes out. I mean, that's such a good thing for baseball.
I'm not even a huge baseball fan, partly due to the Pittsburgh Steelers and their.
You mean the Pirates? You mean the Pirates?
Pirates.
There
See,
you don't even know the team. You don't even know the team.
That's how much I'm interested in baseball. But even this caught my interest when you have Ohtani versus Trout. And this is, anybody that says this isn't good for baseball is, I just don't understand where they're coming from.
I don't get
it. You look at the numbers, this was watched by more people than any World Series game of all time, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, Japan, if you just look at their numbers, I believe it was over 95% of the Japanese population was watching the game when Ohtani struck out Mike Trout. I mean, you have people all over the world that are invested in this game. And the USA, they had this dream team of hitters, but then you look at U.S. pitching, and Adam Wainwright starting the first game, and he's 42 years old. I believe they had some, scratches, some injury concerns with their starting pitching. But hey, special shout out to the Czech Republic and Great Britain for each getting a victory. Great Britain with those horrible uniforms, but also the Dominican Republic didn't even make it out of pool play. Finished 2-2. That's going to be complete letdown for the Dominican Republic. But I mean, hey, I just can't wait for the next 4 years from now, because I mean, this is a great event.
I'm excited.
You're excited? I can feel it.
I know. Even as someone who's not the biggest fan, I love to see the world of athletics grow and the world of sports, and to see any sport take off like I think this will give.
And to see Trey Turner as Captain America. That's what I'm talking about, all right? We already mentioned it, Sweet 16. March Madness is up next as Colby Cook makes his return to the bench. With March Madness in full swing, we bring in Colby Cook, Bryson Burns. Sweet 16 gets started on Thursday. My bracket's busted. I don't know about y'all. But okay, guys, we got to bring in champion prediction. There's 16 teams left. Colby, start with you. Who's bringing home the title?
Listen, Alabama's the sexy pick right now, okay? But I'm going to go with the Houston Cougars. They're moving on to the Big 12 next year. Yes, their schedule is a little bit nerfed, if that's what you want to call it, in the American Conference. But they have 2 losses, one to Alabama, and it was very close, and one is a 1-point loss to Temple. They have 5 guys averaging double figures. The only question is, in my mind at least, can Marcus Sasser remain healthy? He's had a couple of health issues in the first couple of rounds, but if he can remain healthy, as well as Jamal Shead, this team is looking good.
I would have to go with Alabama. I know it's going to make my mom really upset because she bleeds orange, but Bama is just probably the best team in the country right now. Currently first in points per game, first in defensive rebounds. They have one of the best rebounding margins in the entire nation. 4 games where they scored over 100 points in regulation. They also beat 5 ranked teams so far this season. They have had a few questionable losses like the Tennessee and a few SEC schools, but overall they have looked really, really good. They've looked really, really strong both in the SEC tournament and in the NCAA tournament. They've won all those games by double digits so far. I think Alabama just looks really, really strong. And you mentioned it yourself, I think Houston just has too weak of a schedule to where they can really perform well all the way through the tournament.
But here's my question for you, Bryson. How does Alabama handle the off-the-court situations? Because that's been, just in flux every week for the past, month and a half, right? And even Nick Saban, said last week, there's no such thing as a wrong place, wrong time. That's within your own program. So how do you deal with that?
it's just going to have to be one of those things where they just kind of have to put it off to the side. I mean, it's very, very serious situation, especially with those off-court stuff, but it's just one of those things where they've shown that they can at least put it to the side in the regular season and during the SEC tournament. And so I'd say they were able to do that on the NCAA tournament. But I also kind of want to look at another point as well, and that their path to the championship is extremely easy. If they beat San Diego State, they're going to play either 6 seed Creighton or 15 seed Princeton in the Elite Eight. And then when they go to the Final Four, they're going to play against, at best, a 3 seed or at worst, a 9 seed. And so their path all the way to the championship looks very, very easy compared to all other 15 teams in the Sweet 16.
All right, but here's a proposition for you. Say they get upset in the Sweet 16. San Diego State has some guards that can fly. They love to get out in transition. Yes, I'm aware they're in a smaller conference. But say they get upset by the guard tandem that San Diego State has, then where are you sitting right now? Because it's really a battle of the guards. Yes, Alabama has, some sensational forward play, but it's really a matter of who keeps a higher tempo.
Absolutely. It's one of those situations where Bama is going to have to be dominant on the board to have a good chance against the Aztecs. They're also just going to have to get back as fast as they can. They can't allow SDSU to push the tempo. They can't allow San Diego State to get those fast break opportunities. They just have to be really, really disciplined, both defensively and on the boards as well.
And again, I think we're seeing in this tournament that physicality is playing such a huge factor. Like you said with San Diego State, I got to see them in person. I mean, they are a tough physical team. It will be a great challenge for either 1 seed. And so both of you picked 1 seeds. But I think there's one seed that we got to talk about.
You talk about physicality.
In terms of being a disappointment.
Talk about physicality.
I think we know who the biggest disappointment is, Bryson.
Everybody knows who the
biggest
disappointment is.
It has to be Purdue. It just has to be Purdue. I mean, that is probably the biggest upset in the tournament of all time against FDFU, and it's not even close. The only other one that comes even close is Virginia UMBC. Here's just some statistics. FDU was on average the shortest team in Division I. Purdue, led by Zach Edey, who is a consensus All-American and the Big Ten Player of the Year, 7'4", and their entire team on average is the tallest team in Division I. We hear the phrase David versus Goliath a lot in upsets, but this was literally a David versus Goliath type game. And it's even worse for Purdue if you consider that FDU really shouldn't have even been there in the first place because they did not win the NEC Conference Championship. They lost in the conference championship against Merrimack, but because Merrimack was still in the transition process moving from D2 to D1, FDU got the automatic bid and they made the most of it. And on top of that, they were the worst team in the tournament. They were ranked 68 out of 68, and they're also the first ever team to play in the first 4 as a 16 seed and beat a 1 seed as well. Just a complete just travesty if you're a Boilermakers fan.
Well, not only that, but it catapulted Tobin Anderson to a pretty high-profile gig. But I mean, I don't know. While Purdue is arguably the biggest disappointment, I gotta say the first year of Tommy Lloyd's tenure has not, or the first couple of years of Tommy Lloyd's tenure in Arizona has not gone that well. Like they were, a favorite pick by many to cut the nets down. They lose to Princeton, then they proceed to lose Kirk Risa, who is, the assist leader in the Pac-12 and shoots, low 30s percentage from 3 to the transfer portal. So Tommy Lloyd has arguably built one of the highest ranked preseason teams we've seen, and they just got obliterated by the Ivy League. What?
The Ivy, but isn't that a staple or a statement to what college basketball has become? Because we see in college football that it's becoming big time, big time, big time. But for 3 years in a row, we've had a 15 seed make the Sweet 16. What does that say about college basketball right now?
The transfer portal, that's what it says, because teams can take all these highly rated recruits, and look, you can build a team from scratch in 1 year. You can, if you're a mid-major program, take any kind of recruiting you want and just, kind of build a program in a year, essentially. You couldn't do that before, and that's what makes this special. Now you're going to see a lot more parity and a lot more of these lower-seeded teams or higher-seeded teams, however you want to look at it, do very, very well in the tournament.
And this isn't necessarily a new thing for Princeton, ironically. You got to remember back in the late 80s, they almost beat Georgetown, who was a 1 seed, as a 16 seed. That was when they were talking about getting rid of the automatic bid for those small conferences. They, ironically, saved March Madness and allowed those Cinderella teams to really thrive years and years later. But I also think you were talking about how a lot of these smaller schools are becoming competitive. I think, ironically, COVID has a thing to do with that, because you see a lot of players got the COVID red shirt, and so you got a lot of 5th and 6th year seniors. whereas in years past, they would have already graduated. But if you look at the high school class of 2021, they were basically going into college with those seniors not leaving at all. Very small amount of people graduated. So you're going to see a lot of people who are in the high school class of 2021 who may have gone to like an Alabama or a Tennessee or one of these really big schools in football and basketball, but instead they have to go to a group of 5 or an FCS school. And because of that, I think you're going to see here in a year or two a lot of these group of 5 and FCS schools, both in football, but also those mid-major schools in basketball, start to become really, really competitive because they're basically getting better players than they would have otherwise got.
I mean, you can see that again, obviously, with that player who was at Memphis, who was 26 years old, playing in the NCAA tournament. All right, guys, we got to wrap this up quickly. But you mentioned Tobin Anderson going to Iona. What is one, quick 15-second pitch? Which one coaching hire are you a fan of?
What's one coaching hire I'm a fan of? I got to say Rick Pitino because, look, the man has been surrounded by controversy, but he's built to win, and he can do that at St. John's. The one I'm a little on the fence about, Ed Cooley. 3-7 all-time in the NCAA tournament, and he goes to Georgetown.
And 2 of those wins came in 1 year, and that was last year.
He's
with
only
Providence.
made the Sweet 16 one time. You're right, that was last year. So as good of a coach as Ed Cooley is, can he survive in the big lights at Georgetown? We'll see.
I think with Tobin Anderson, he was kind of my biggest coaching change because it's not a huge jump, but at the same time, he's been given a lot. You got to remember, he inherited an FDU team that was 4-22 before he got there. Now he's going to Iona, one of the best mid-major schools in college basketball. They've consistently been great in the MAAC. He's just been very, very impressive, and he's shown a lot of really good character during that tournament arc. And that one season with FDU this past year, that was not a fluke either. He was a very, very talented head coach at St. Thomas Aquinas, a D2 school, and he led them to a ton of tournament and conference championship appearances. And so I think this is a great, great move here by Iona.
Well, gentlemen, my Carolina men, it's been great talking college hoops with you. We're going to throw it to the NFL.
Welcome back to 1-1 Sports. We're a little over a month from the NFL draft, but we got our 2 analysts, Cole Noble, Kane Strickland, to talk about some of their predictions. Let's start off with the first overall pick. There's a little bit of discussion. Who's going to trade up? Who's going to trade down? Cole, what do you see happening?
Well, I mean, the Carolina Panthers already traded up, so they're officially on the clock now. I think the decision's made. I think when you trade up to the number 1 overall pick, you know who you're going to take, and you move up to take that guy. Yes, they control the board. They can take whoever they want to. But yesterday at the Ohio State Pro Day, or during this week at the Ohio State Pro Day, the smiles tell all. I think the pick's going to be C.J. Stroud. I mean, Frank Wright has highlighted wanting an accurate passer. He's the most accurate passer in this class. I think he fits what the Carolina Panthers want with this offense, what they're trying to build around, the pieces they brought in free agency. And just seeing the interactions yesterday says the whole story for me. I think it's C.J. Stroud, hands down. He's going to be the first pick in the draft.
Look, you can't argue against C.J. Stroud. There's a clear 1 and 2 in this year's draft. I would give the slight edge to Bryce Young, though. Bryce Young, in my opinion, is the best quarterback in the country, college quarterback at least. His stats last year, very similar to C.J. Stroud, completed 65% of his passes for 3,300 yards, only threw 5 interceptions and 32 passing touchdowns. Virtually the same as C.J. Stroud, but the eye test for me tells the difference. He is one of the most clutch players I've ever seen play. And the first thing that I think about when I think of Bryce Young is the end of the Iron Bowl in 2021 when they were trailing 10-3 with just over a minute left in the game. Offense hadn't done squat all game. Give the ball to Bryce Young with not even a minute left on the 3-yard line. Scores a touchdown in a minute, send it to overtime, win in 4 overtimes. One of the most impressive performances I've seen. No matter how big or small, he's going to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, they were at the Alabama Pro Day today. Carolina Panthers went straight down from Ohio State to Alabama to check out Bryce Young as well. But the thing for me is, Thomas Davis, we don't need to see Thomas Davis out here smoke screening about Anthony Richardson. When you have the number 1 overall pick, you don't need to smoke screen who you're going to take. You can tell straight up. You can say it on any network who you're going to take because nothing changes when you have that number 1 overall pick. I'm still going to side with C.J. Stroud, but that's just who I think is just for me.
And we'll see if he's cooking something. I'm not too sold on what the Panthers are doing here, but We can touch on that a little bit later.
Well, like you said, Caden, there's a clear number 1 and number 2 guy. But now I want to hear the hot takes, Caden. What's yours?
You know, I just touched on it. I don't think the Panthers are sold. I think that trade that they just made, I think it really hurt their future in the short term and the long term. Trading away 4 early round picks in the next 2 years, that's not what you want to do when you're a rebuilding team.
And talk about DJ Moore as well.
Yeah, for sure. That was
top
their
player on
number
their
one.
team.
That was their number one weapon, and I'm sure Justin Fields is jumping for joy right now. But if you're the Panthers, that just doesn't make any sense. You can trade back. You can trade back and get a guy like Anthony Richardson that we all know the Panthers are super high on. I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up doing that to get just a few more assets back in return that they lost, just to help out their future a little bit. They made some moves in the offseason. They signed Adam Thielen and Miles Sanders, but that's not going to be enough in a rebuilding organization like the Panthers.
All right, so hottest take. How about let's talk about the hottest name in the NFL right now, Lamar Jackson. And there's a team out there right now who, right now, the way the board is set, sitting with the 4th overall pick, could be settling with the 3rd or 4th best quarterback in this year's class. Why not, if you're Chris Ballard, pursue the 26-year-old former MVP in the National Football League, trade your 2023 first-round pick, trade the 2024 first-round pick, give him the fully guaranteed contract, because you know this guy is a star. My bold prediction, Lamar Jackson to the Indianapolis Colts, and then give the Baltimore Ravens the opportunity with the 4th overall pick to reset their clock, take Anthony Richardson, and run it right back with that same scheme and a quarterback on a rookie contract.
Let me ask you one thing. Why, in God's name, would the Ravens do that?
I mean, the Ravens, they're looking to trade him. I mean, they have to be. They're done with the negotiations, and they're not going to pay him a fully guaranteed contract. You keep the same scheme with Anthony Richardson on a rookie deal, on a rookie contract, that's 4 to 5 more years without having to worry about this negotiation ever again for the next, foreseeable future.
But you think Anthony Richardson can just replace that production right out the gate? This
Not
dude
right out of the
completed 53% of the passes. He might be athletic, but let's face it, he's not an NFL-level passer.
I mean, you have Pro Bowler right behind him, when Tyler Huntley as well, just a Pro Bowl quarterback. It's
You
not
don't call him a Pro Bowl.
He
That was
made
a-
the Pro
the-
Bowl.
he made
He was
the
a
Pro
Pro
Bowl.
He
Bowler.
made the Pro Bowl. He made the Pro Bowl.
Either way, I mean, this is a divorce waiting to happen. Just like we're going to see later with the Green Bay Packers and the New York Jets happening, and the divorce with Aaron Rodgers. It's too far gone. The bridge, I think, is burnt with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. They're going to let another team handle the negotiations, and I just think that for the Colts, this just makes more sense for them to be the team that jumps in and makes the decision.
To me, what the Ravens have done to Lamar Jackson is not okay. That's not how you're supposed to treat your franchise
Oh, I
cornerstone.
100% agree.
Your MVP player. Like, the bridge is definitely burned, but I don't think now is the time.
Yeah, we'll see. Bold predictions.
There's not a fate much worse than being traded to Indianapolis. I know you guys just gave your hot takes, but these might be even hotter. You guys chose your sleeper first-round picks, and I overheard your discussion before. I don't agree with these at all, but you can go ahead and try to convince me.
So we are both going with quarterbacks here to be our sleepers to come into the first round. Outside of the top 4, I have Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. I mean, the guy that led one of the top offenses this year, was the #1 team at one point this year. And yes, the ACL is a big concern for a lot of teams. 25 years old, a big concern for a lot of teams. Brandon Whedon, he was drafted 22nd overall, and he was 28. I don't think that's a major concern.
I don't know if you want to be compared to Brandon Whedon.
But either way, he was mocked in the first round in DJ's mock draft. Daniel Jeremiah that came out this week to the Minnesota Vikings. I think that there could be a quarterback-hungry team in here that sneaks in and tries to take Hendon Hooker to be their guy, and is maybe rest a year and then take over. But I think the traits are there, and a team could get hot on Hendon Hooker to sneak in and grab him.
Hendon Hooker was a good college quarterback, but what did he accomplish? He didn't accomplish anything. 15-7 as a starter, that's average. This guy was 29-3 in 2 years as a starter. Back-to-back national championships, the only player in the country to do that. Stetson Bennett was 6th in the nation in passing yards last year, 4th in QB rating, without a single 5-star receiver on the field other than Darnell Washington, who was primarily used as a blocker. We're talking about a guy who started his career as a walk-on at Georgia, transferred to Jones County Community College. I'm not sure if you know where that is. It's in the middle of Mississippi or somewhere. I don't freaking know. But he balled out at the community college level, went back to Georgia on scholarship, and completed one of the greatest underdog stories in history. This is the third most complete quarterback in the class, outside of the two we touched on earlier. People are mocking Will Levis to go in the first round. There's nothing that Will Levis does that Stetson Bennett can't.
I don't know if I 100% agree, but sadly we're out of time to hear any more of that argument, guys. Thank you so much. Next up is MLB.
Welcome back inside 101 Sports. Spring training is among us. The World Baseball Classic has ended. And again, Matt, I'm sorry for what happened to Ed lose the season to injury Diaz. I'm sorry, buddy. Okay, guys. Red flags, concerns. Matt, we're always concerned about your New York Mets. What now?
Well, yeah, you just mentioned it. My team to be concerned about is the New York Mets, my New York Mets.
Your New York Mets.
Usually, at the beginning of the season, we're ready to win the World Series, and it all falls apart at the end. But apparently this year, they're getting my misery out in front of me, and we are ruining it right now. Star closer, done. Jose Quintana out through at least July, and Brandon Nimmo, who's had injury problems, gets his first injury of the year already. Should be ready around opening day, but still an issue. Now, our rotation depth, down. With already fragile, old starting pitchers, I mean, it's just a mess. And, well, at least I can be sad all season instead of just at the end.
Isn't that great when your
It is
team
great.
just, doesn't meet expectations?
Falls apart.
Yeah.
Isn't it great?
So I'm going to go with a team that has had a lot of success, but is known to choke in the playoffs as well. I'm going with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I have a little bit concerns about them. They lost Trey Turner, who went absolute ham in the World Baseball Classic. They let Justin Turner go on a club option. They lost Cody Bellinger. They lost a good reliever in Craig Kimbrell, and Tyler Anderson, who was a great pitcher for them last year as well. I just think they're underwhelming, and I think this is going to be just the second time in the last decade that they're not going to win the NL West. I think the Padres have improved a lot, and I think they're ready to make that next push. So yeah, I've got the Dodgers for the team I'm most concerned about. I just don't.
I'm not really too concerned about them. I know they've lost a lot of pieces, but the thing that we've seen countless times throughout the past few years is the Padres can't stay healthy. They really haven't. Tatis has had his injuries. They've had rotation problems with injuries as well. If they can stay healthy, yes, the Padres are my favorite to win the division, but the Dodgers still have such young talent. They've got Mookie Betts. They've got a great rotation. I just don't think that they're done yet.
The thing about the Dodgers is they're trying to fill a lot of holes with those younger guys, like you said. And, well, I think they're still going to be successful. I don't know if you can say, okay, they're a World Series favorite now.
Yeah, maybe, no.
Or because you're not sure how those guys are going to pan out, even if they are top prospects, and that's kind of how you want to run your organization. So I think I can just see them taking a step back, and I don't think they have guys who have solidified themselves as MLB All-Stars or superstars.
But you talk about young talent, and who thought the Astros were going to get Jeremy Pena after losing Carlos Correa, and then he wins World Series MVP?
Yep.
So again, it's just filling that void with young talent. You never really know, but again, it's the Dodgers. They have a $200 million payroll. I'm not let's have two teams with two $250 million payrolls, and go O's. Okay, top prospect. Okay, guys, a lot of top prospects in baseball showing out in spring training. Who is that top prospect that makes the 26-man roster? Harry, go ahead.
I'm going to go with a guy who is a little bit under the radar. He's only number 11 in the Los Angeles Angels system. I'm going with Ben Joyce. He led the juggernaut Tennessee Vols last year in the SEC. He had 53 strikeouts and 32 in the third innings, which is crazy. He's only pitched 13 professional innings. He was just drafted last year, but he had 20 strikeouts in those innings in Double-A, and he's an absolute flamethrower. He's touched 105 miles per hour on the bump. And whenever you have a guy throwing that hard, I don't think you need to keep him a year, multiple years in the minor leagues, because I think he could compete with guys. He was in big league camp this year in spring training, had a 3 ERA, and when the Angels faced Team USA in an exhibition game, he struck out Pete Alonso. He struck out the guy on the Mets. He's looking really
That's
good.
That's not a great accomplishment. He strikes out a lot.
He's looking MLB ready is the point. And with their reliever Jose Marte getting hurt in spring training, I believe that that opens a hole in the Angels bullpen, and they can fill it with Ben Joyce.
Let's mention again, he throws 105 miles an hour. That is something
less than 22
special.
years
old.
At less than 22,
Yes.
it's something special. So he's definitely something to keep an eye on.
He's definitely.
But there are a lot of guys that could make an impact, especially on some of these teams. Corbin Carroll of the D-backs, he's one I want to mention. Yeah. And then there's two on your Baltimore Orioles that I want to mention.
There is.
Grayson Rodriguez, the right-hand pitcher, and the guy that I chose, Gunnar Henderson. He's been on the radar of MLB GMs for a long time. He's going to fill the void in one of those two middle infield positions. Most likely the shortstop is what we're going to see him do. He's an elite prospect. He had a few games last year when he got caught up. I believe he played 34 games. He hit 260, which, isn't great, but his minor league statistics over the past few years have been great. He's hit 15-plus homers. He's hit 290-plus. I mean, he is everything that you want in a shortstop, and you get him up there. You've got Adley Rutschman up there already. Ton of young talent, and a team that made a push for the playoffs late last year.
You're darn right they did.
If everything goes right, Baltimore Orioles, they could be playoff
Biggest
bound.
turnaround
You
in
never
MLB
know.
history
I do like
last
the
year.
Orioles, yes.
Yeah, they could be.
31-win turnaround from a year ago, so okay. Yep. I know it's early. I know it's March. But let's talk about some madness here. Early World Series favorites, okay? So look into your crystal ball. Look into your sheet of white paper. Who are you seeing that could win the World Series?
There are a lot of strong teams. There really are. If we look just at some of them real quick before I bring mine, the Braves, Phillies, and Mets. Mets obviously have their injury problems now. Rhys Hoskins just got hurt for the Phillies. They're all in the same division. They're going to be battling it out. Then you've got the Padres and Dodgers, who we talked about earlier, both going at it. And then the Yankees, Blue Jays, maybe the Orioles. Not World Series favorite Orioles, but again, strong teams in divisions. The one that doesn't really have a competitor in the division that can ease through the regular season, get going, it's going to be the Houston Astros. Houston Astros, they have to be. They lost Justin Verlander. They lost Yuri Gurriel, but they add Jose Abreu. They've got a strong rotation, a great bullpen. They still have one of the best lineups in all of baseball. I mean, it's hard to root against the Houston Astros. It really is.
Yeah, I think the Astros are going to do phenomenal. Like you said, they don't have much competition in the regular season. There are a lot of AL teams that in a 7-game series, 5-game series can take them out. I've got the Blue Jays beating the Astros in 7 in the ALCS, going into the World Series, and end up winning it. They were a little under the radar during the offseason, but they signed Dalton Varsho, Brandon Belt, Kevin Kiermaier. That's going to help them a lot on defense.
That makes them World Series contenders.
The Toronto Blue Jays.
Don't get me wrong, they're a great team.
They're good.
Yeah. They're all left-handed hitters, which is going to even out their lineup, as right now they're loaded with righties, so teams are taking advantage of that. So even though they're not mind-boggling superstars, that's going to help them out a lot, and they still have big names such as Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Matt Chapman. Vlad Jr., you could argue, had a down season for his standards. I don't think we see that again. I think we have an MVP-type caliber season from him. Matt Chapman, he's Matt Chapman. I think he'll do
But what about
well.
the rotation? Is that rotation going to be able to compete in a playoff series?
I think it can. I mean, they have, in the bullpen, they have Jordan Romano, who had a 2.11
Not the
ERA
bullpen, the
last
starting
year.
rotation, the guy that's going to get you through
Answer the
5+
question,
innings.
Harry.
The starting rotation might be a little bit shaky.
And they have Alek Manoah.
I mean, going up
They have
against the
Alek
Houston
Manoah, who has
Astros
done-
lineup,
I just still think they got it. They led the MLB in batting average last year. So even though the rotation was a little bit middle of the road, it's still not terrible. And I think they can use their offense to kind of carry them through. And they've got a strong bullpen. I think that's what matters a little bit more in the postseason. And I can see them being up at the top at the AL East, honestly.
Whew, the heat coming from Harry Haber and the Gouza. All right, that's going to do it for MLB here on 101 Sports. Thank you for watching another edition of 101 Sports.
And make sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter.
And as always, whose side are you on? All right, let's move into that.
Oh, that one.
Oh, hit the camera. Let's go.
Bullseye.